Hey guys, it's Ethan. Today I wanted to talk to you about Steam Audio and how it's going to affect the flow of Escape from Tarkov. From what I know, Steam Audio will add surround sound and occlusion to the game. So what is occlusion? Occlusion is a process in which sound will bounce off of a wall or be blocked by a surface or object. For example, if I stand on one side of a wall and talk, you shouldn't be able to hear me through the other side, or at least the sound will be muffled. At the moment, Escape from Tarkov nearly entirely lacks this. A good example is on Factory. If I stand at the bottom floor of the offices, I can hear you all the way on the top. Because the sound is not occluded or muffled, you can't tell what floor the player is on. The same thing can be found in the dorms on Customs. A player on the second floor will have no idea if you're on the first or the third because you will sound like you're right next to them always. This encourages a sneaky and stagnant way of play because you never know who could be listening to your footsteps out of your view. Steam Audio will be coming to Escape from Tarkov in 12.6 and implemented in phases. Unfortunately, we don't know what this means, but we can assume that the sound will probably be very different. With the ideal implementation of Steam Audio, a player should not be able to hear you underneath them in Ollie, because the concrete floors would be too thick for you to hear. This would also apply to the second floor of interchange. We don't have much information at the moment, but we can definitely assume that Steam Audio will speed up the pace of gameplay because more people will be concerned with what they can see and not who could be listening. But this also provides an advantage for those who take the time to listen. Knowing exactly what floor a player is on by hearing the muffled footsteps above or below them could provide a large advantage that can't be seen at the moment in the game. Another factor to consider in Steam Audio's implementation is the sound of gunshots. At the moment, gunshots are almost entirely unaffected by walls or distance, besides their volume. There is no effect added to them except in very specific cases. These cases are usually when you're outside and a player is inside. However, it's yet to be seen if we can hear a difference when you're inside and there's a player outside. Escape from Tarkov is currently stereo. The difference between stereo and surround, for example, is that surround sound can trigger multiple parts of the headphone on one side, which creates a more ambient, dynamic sound. With stereo, you can only hear sound coming from the left side or the right side. If a player is on your right, you will hear the sound on your right side, but not exactly what direction. The same can be said about the left, but the front and the back should sound the same unless your head is on a slight tilt. This is why you may see some players using the free look feature to turn their heads and try to pinpoint sound direction. Steam Audio should add support for surround sound or at least 5.1 headphones, which would create a more dynamic sound system for the game, separate from occlusion or reflections. At the moment, in some maps, you may hear footsteps but not react to them, because you know that there's no point. If you know that a player is on a different vertical level than you, and you hear their footsteps, you'll ignore them. At some point, you may hear their footsteps again, but they'll be on your level and you won't react, and you'll be killed. Sound is easy to ignore in this game because of how buggy and unrealistic it is. With the implementation of Steam Audio, however, people will really rely on sound and value it more. Steam Audio will make the game faster paced and more strategic, while also increasing the value of sound. Any sound you hear will become valuable information, because if you were meant to hear it, then the player is nearby. With the new occlusion and 3D sound, players will be able to hear sound that really makes sense, and not just sound that relates to direction and distance. If somebody is in Tech Light and you're in Texo, you won't be able to hear each other unless one of you looks down at the escalator. This is because the only path that sound could find to travel through would be the opening where the escalator is. Not only would it be hard to pinpoint exactly where you are, but you would now have to rely on the surface that you're on. If you hear a player under you on wood, but you can only hear the sound coming from the opening in the escalator, it's mostly safe to assume that they're in Texo. However, at the moment, while you're standing inside of Tech Light, you can just hear the footsteps underneath you and know the player is at the corner. This is unrealistic and provides a reason for both players to crouch walk the entire time they loot. Many players camp high traffic areas or hide in corners or rooms waiting to hear players run by. With Steam Audio, a player will only be able to hear the sound coming from the doorway. This provides a big advantage and disadvantage. For the player inside of the room, you'll only be able to hear the running coming from the door. The direction will be hard to pinpoint and the distance will be hard to pinpoint. However, for the player that is outside of the room running, any sound the player inside makes will come through that doorway specifically. This is a big difference compared to what we have now. At the moment, if somebody stands next to a room's dividing wall, it's near impossible to tell what room they're in. With Steam Audio, it'll be much easier and much more realistic. I want to wrap up the video by saying we don't know for sure how Steam Audio is going to function or how it's going to be implemented. These are all just ideas that I have and possibilities. What we do know for sure is that Steam Audio is going to be a big difference and it's going to be a big game changer. So hopefully it's implemented properly and functionally in 12.6. Anyways, that's all from me. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave it a like. If you want to see more of my content, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
I look at the sky whenever I feel there's something wrong.